case. I'm here at the Dead Sea with Miles Kessler, old friend.
My buddy Mark.
We've known each other for 10 years.
Is it 10 years?
10 years
Cyprus,
since Cyprus. It is deeply involved with spiritual work, meditation teacher, aikido teacher, sensei of various kinds. The topic today is moving from the internal to the external.
The interiors to the exteriors.
Yeah. So why would we bother? Why not just sit and meditate forever?
Actually, I have no problem with that. I really have no problem with sitting and meditating forever, because I spent years meditating forever, so that's actually quite cool. But there was some, and it actually came out of my meditation. It was very clear at a certain point that there wasn't desire left to be in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all that stuff was there, but it was somehow kind of, you know, I could take distance on it. I could detach from it, observe it. It would melt away. That was all fine, but there was still a longing for more. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't a sense coming from a sense of dissatisfaction. It was coming from a need to express something.
Natural desire to express sense of
natural
service,
desire to
right?
express sense of service.
Yeah, for me, it's like the expression of what's in, and also that idea of like, well, what am I going to do with this? Like, I can sit and be happy. I can be in a blissed out state in the monastery or in the aikido dojo, being the uchideshi or whatever, and then actually to go out and do something.
Right.
And I know over the last few years, I've been doing businesses, running around. Yeah. You've been kind of getting more business-like. You've had a kid, so there's some practical stuff here as well.
Very practical, exactly.
Yeah, it's like, and like I got married. You got married not that long before. I mean, that's pretty in the world right there. I mean, we can talk about businesses, but that's a very in the world practice.
That's the most challenging spiritual practice I ever had was
marriage,
family. The marriage and being a father.
Because I saw you first thing this morning, and it's like, I just did my meditation with Patrick at like 6:30 a.m. and then as soon as I had a coffee afterwards, and you're like coming out bleary-eyed, and your beautiful daughter's like fully awake, and you're like straight away, it's there.
Yeah, exactly. She wakes you up whether you're ready to wake up or not. Literally.
So we're in the world with family, in the world with business. Like, do you want to say something about that transition from being like a deeply internal, because I imagine back in the day you didn't have much money in Burma or Japan. You were just doing enough to get by,
Yeah, I would earn enough to live on it and leave donations, and then but it was great, and lived on the welfare, the generosity of others. Family, would stay with family, stay with friends. I would
sleeping
teach
on couches. I did that,
and it was all cool. But it's not cool for what I want to do. The main thing is coming back into the world is one thing. For me, I was 16 years out of society, so that was a big move to come back and embrace life in the marketplace. But then to bring the spirituality back into the marketplace, it's also another practice, which we could talk about in another time if you want. But to actually take spirituality as a teacher, as a facilitator of somebody who helps other people kind of awaken in their lives, to have an impact in the world where people can do that in a greater way, is kind of it's a whole nother challenge, and it was very clear that to do that, to create some type of platform or space where people can go into their interiors and awaken. It was very clear that I had to go into my exteriors and really nuts.
Because you have to have a place that looks attractive for people to come to. You have to be. Do you want to hold the camera?
Yeah, sure.
Cheers, man. It's like
sensations.
It's just sensations. Just feel. It's in the world with my camera. Is this actual work? Yeah, that like actually what I've realized is by being successful in the more old school materialistic kind of way, like having a business, it's like bums on seats. That's also how I get something out there.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
The only reason I can have a YouTube channel that has 10 million hits and is giving away embodied wisdom freely to literally millions of people is that's supported by like the business work I do. That's supported by a business model, and trying to find that combination of being externally successful but in a kind of wider values driven way, and not just do that. Like I do the internal work and then I have to do this like hastily thing to be in the world. Like it's also like, how do I make that my practice itself? Like I was watching a guy trying to meditate. He was trying to meditate, so I was there, and his daughter was literally climbing on him. And it was like, dude, that's your fucking practice now. Do you know what I mean? It was like you're not gonna have a quiet sit this morning, And so that for me is the kind of growth edge there, not the integration of the kind of internal work with the external, not like, oh, I have to do the external, it's a pain in the ass,
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's I would also say that technology gives us an amazing amount of power to reach people.
Yeah, like the online stuff we're both doing now, it's incredible, right? And very little setup costs and
very little. The learning curve is at the beginning is pretty steep, but once you get it, it's actually it's okay, you know. And then like in my stuff, I'm reaching more and more people on a pretty much a daily basis, and it's so great because I've spent a lot of energy into building, events like this, and in this tent where people come from all over the world to kind of join and come together. But then there's a way to do it online where people can actually be where they're at in the world and join and come together.
Because this is a way that we're outside of the world, very obviously outside of normal life in this beautiful setting, and that's cool. But also, it's a shitload of work, right, for you, and also the exclusivity. Like it costs a lot of money to come here from Germany or the US, or people come from all over the world, and that immediately is going to be like hard. Take it back, my turn. That immediately kind of makes it less accessible. You know, where someone can do one of my online courses for a few $100, and it's like they're getting, is it the same? No, but they're getting a hell of a lot of learning, and they could be a mother who can't leave the house. They could be someone who just hasn't got the money, and they just want to watch YouTube videos for free. And for me, there's an accessibility piece there as well as just like, hey, you're a dad now. You can't be running around to an international seminar every single week anymore.
Especially somebody who teaches embodiment or teaches aikido. Meditation is a little bit less because you can meditate on your own. You think online it doesn't really work because you have to be there. But in a way, it is a little bit of. If you're not careful, you can be disembodied when you're studying or practicing online. But it doesn't have to be.
No, we give people practices to do. We use Facebook to have community support, and people reach out to each other. I'm leading webinars. I'm leading people. I have my office set up so people can see my whole body. And actually, the difference between seeing someone's whole body on a camera and being in a room, and it's not like in my seminars, people are like touching me the whole time.
Right.
Like if I'm in a business group, they're not touching me at all.
Right.
So it's actually not so different. It's just a visual medium. The only difference is they're in their own house and they're comfortable and they're relaxed, which actually has some benefits.
It's a great
benefit. Because they're not anxious. They're not being, the more introvert people aren't freaking out because they're not being socially observed in the same way.
And if you bring the right intention to it, you can actually begin to integrate what you're learning directly into your environment.
Yeah, straight away.
If you go away to the desert and you go deep, when you go back, it's very easy to flip back into the old pattern.
Someone made a joke yesterday. Patrick was teaching, great guy, teaching some cool stuff, and someone said, I wish I could do this in my life. And everyone laughed, and I went, actually, that's the key thing.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like, we're in the desert, we're in these special aikido clothes, with special aikido words.
And with special aikido people.
With special aikido people in a special, beautiful place.
And a love bubble.
Which is a love bubble, which is great because it nurtures something and it supports something which might not be able to be born otherwise, But how's the integration? Because where I need this is when I'm on the train in London.
Yeah, and there's nobody there, and your sanghas not there to support you.
Yeah.
That's the tricky thing. So last thing I'd say about online stuff, which is you don't have to do it, but for me it's actually become a very powerful way to impact the world. Is that there's a little bit of resistance towards so-called virtual realities. But actually, my experience with working people with online, either through coaching or through the courses, is that there are realities in the virtual, and there's something called digital intimacy that you can be as equally intimate in a disembodied way, but is equally intimate with somebody who's on the other side of the world. In the middle of a call or in the middle of a session, as you can when you're one-on-one with them.
And I would say it is part of our reality. Most people are spending quite a lot of time online, and if our spirituality or practices isn't addressing the online space, then it's not addressing where some people might spend 8, 10, 12 hours a day. What the fuck use is it otherwise if it can't be employed?
That's a really good point.